I'm one of those people. I feel like if I did the crime, right, I'll just take the punishment. Next. Hi, and I guess welcome. This is my first YouTube video. I go by Pape. I'm trying to make that a thing. Pape is my last name. I think that my first and middle names are uninteresting and boring and uncharacteristic and forgettable. Ever since YouTube became a thing and people started to share their lives and to share tutorials and to vlog, I have always been told your life is interesting enough to share with others. You're somewhat of a character. People will find you entertaining. The irony is, I don't really use social media. I want to preface by saying that the story I'm about to go into does involve topics of mental health disorders. The way that I navigate this topic or approach the story, I don't know if it will resonate with everyone. It's not my aim either. I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. This is my own story, but I'm saying this because there are times in the story where I may inject humor or levity just to lighten the mood, and that may not necessarily sit well with some viewers. One other thing I'll add is that this story does involve violence and quite a bit of aggression. I was 16, 17 at the time, and the way that I handle situations now is absolutely not in the same fashion. And I do not condone anger and aggression as your first response. So, as the story goes, I went to Hughes High School. I love that school. The campuses were gorgeous. The teachers were great. The students were shit, but I love that school. In third form, we were being taught English by this lady named Miss. Man, she was like the greatest teacher that ever lived. She passed away recently, well, a couple years ago, so, you know, I hope her family was able to grieve in a healthy way. She's terribly missed. Miss turned out to be our temporary English teacher, and when we were introduced to Miss, who was our permanent English teacher for the year, we saw a significant decrease in our English scores. English, our first language that we speak, that we were all getting great grades in, all of a sudden the class was getting B's and C's, and we weren't used to that. Being the terrible child that I was, something was wrong with me as a teen. I became the class advocate, and I wanted us to get a different English teacher. And so it started from there. Fast forward to grade 10, we were given the same English teacher, and I was flipping out because my whole thing was grade 10 starts the CXC syllabus. Here we were about to start the CXC syllabus, and we were going to be taught English by this dreadful teacher. I didn't know what a petition was at the time, but it appears that's what I was trying to start, where I would get the opinion of students and I would want to record those opinions and record the students' names so that I had enough information and enough evidence to bring to the staff room to try and get our teacher changed. Now, granted, at no point in time was I trying to get the teacher fired. We just didn't want her. We weren't trying to claim her. We just wanted to get better English grades. There was something about the way that she taught that it wasn't resonating with the class. It wasn't just me. It's just that I was the one that was the most vocal in the class. She and I would have like all-out battles because I really was a terrible teenager. Fast forward in the story now to our year coordinator getting wind that there was a particular student who was trying to form a petition against Miss, and our year coordinator came to our class to discuss this with us, to admonish us, to trace we have. If I remember, at the time when she came to address our class, it was close to end of term. And so she came and she traced we have. Mentally said the lady really give it to us. And she kept mentioning this particular student. She knew it was me, right? But she wasn't addressing me. And that was irritating me while she went at us. And so I wanted to address her, and I had my hand up and I wanted to say something, and she would not pick on me for me to say something. So I got fed up because, like, I have a tongue, I have a voice, I have a mouth, I can speak, right? So I started speaking when she wouldn't address me. So she said, listen, Pape, listen. I am not speaking to you. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I had to say something well out of order because I remember her saying, okay, listen, you need to go to the vice principal's office. As we're making our way to the vice principal's office, she is just giving it to me. At some point, she says to me, based on my behavior, they're not going to allow me to graduate. I never business about that, none at all, miss. Even at that time, I realized that graduation was not a prerequisite to getting your school leaving certificate. If you successfully passed your exams, there's no way that the school can withhold that from you to prevent you from moving on to get a job or to go into a tertiary level institution. So me I said to her, say, all right, cool, whatever. Then I said to her, say, moreover, if you tell me I can't graduate, then I don't need to be on my P's and Q's anymore. Bitch, must say I don't know. Again, I was in my teens. While I can still get very fiery now, it's absolutely not my first response. So we're walking to the VP's office and we get to all the administrative arm of the school was pretty much in the same area. So the VP's office, the staff room, the English department, the history department, the principal's office, they're all in the same area. Oh my, excuse me. Oh dear. We get to the English department and we are now waiting to see the vice principal, which her office is nearby, and another teacher. She always had a cup of tea. We always speculated what type of tea she was drinking because she seemed always like she was kind of mellow. Anyway, I loved that teacher. Absolutely loved her. There's somebody just shouting outside. Wow, somebody's literally walking past. And somebody's peddling. Somebody is selling washing machine cover. What kind of? Soap bag. Mattress cover. I'm sure he said, oh, suit bag. Me thinking suit bag. Like, what kind of bag you need for suit? Anyway, so comes to me now and she's saying to me, Pape, you know, you need to shut up. You need to be quiet. You need to calm down. And I remember at one point she's saying to me, because I'm going on and I'm cussing and I'm cussing and I'm cussing. She said to me, wait, you're not shutting up. And I said to her, well, what do you think? And she was so shocked at my rudeness. My mom used to work at the school. She was an English teacher for years. I had a great relationship with the English teachers. I felt like the teachers kind of watched over me, and I felt like I had to, if I was being rude any at all, just don't be rude in front of the English teachers. Cool? Anyway, so I don't recall that issue being resolved that day. I recall it being close to the end of the term. So if it wasn't the last day at the end of the term, it was very close to the end of the term. And so we went on holiday. Fast forward to us coming back from holiday break. And I want to say it was Christmas break. But again, this happened so many years ago. I don't remember those specifics. Whenever we had a holiday break and we were starting a new term, we would have this large assembly. It was common too for, at the end of the assembly, for them to read out a list of girls who were in trouble, and we would have to stay back to see what our punishment was, right? My name has never been called on that list. However, this time my name was on the list. We were told to stand by the vice principal's office and wait until somebody saw us. I believe that we were waiting for the principal. And I want to say I stood there with maybe about 9 girls. I was the nerdiest girl there. I was the misfit. I'm standing there with these girls and I don't really know what the procedure is because, yeah, I get in trouble all the time when I do detention and I get like demerit. I would wear these demerit, neon colored demerit bibs. I think they thought that they were embarrassing us when they made us wear that, but I just didn't give a fuck. Like, I chose to wear the demerit bib and go pick up garbage than do subjects like PE. Like, why is that even a thing? If I just didn't want to do something, I just didn't do it. Like, to this day, I still am like that, where there are certain, God, I hate that. There are certain areas of discipline that I don't understand. So we are there for a couple of hours until some of the girls get impatient and they just wander off and go back to their classes. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this how it goes? Eventually, I am the last man standing. I am dutifully waiting to be disciplined. Everybody else has gone off. I'm one of those people. I feel like if I did the crime, right, I'll just take the punishment. Next. So I'm there waiting to be punished, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And the first half of classes and lunchtime comes and I'm still waiting. And at one point, I think I went to the vice principal's office and I complained about waiting. And she told me to go and sit by the principal's office. There was it almost looks like a holding area where you'd sit outside the principal's office and wait. And I was waiting there to be seen by the principal for hours. When the principal finally opened the door and she saw me, I'll never forget that lady. I really admired the way that she carried herself, the way that she dressed, the way that she used to cut her hair. She was a mature lady. She just have a little vibe about her that I really liked. Anyway, I digress. I explained to her that, I'm waiting to be punished essentially. And she says to me, no, I don't have time for that right now. I have a meeting at the bank with the bishop. I said, bitch. In my little brain, I'm saying to myself, even then, and I say this is something I say to people all the time, time is my most valuable resource. Do not waste my time. Cars passing. I really like my little cozy spot here, but damn, the cars. So the lady told me I'm off for weight, and I lost it. Well, I didn't start losing it then. I went to the vice principal. I'll never forget her too. Like, I was so fond of that lady. I went to her and I said to her, I cannot wait any longer. I would like to go home. I have missed all my classes. I have stood in the sun. I have sat by the principal's office and nobody has come to me. And I cannot wait anymore. I am going home. And she said to me, Pape, wait. Let me set up a meeting with the guidance counselor. I believe I was having behavioral problems from before, so it was common for me to go to the guidance counselor. She pretty much pleaded with me because she saw that I was getting really impatient. And I said to her, okay, I will, for you. I will sit and I will wait. She asked me to give her 1 hour. I want to say that I was waiting already for 4 hours. So her asking me to give her 1 hour was a lot. But anyway, I did love the teacher. She always have my back like that. And I went back to sit by the principal's office. Fast forward to me sitting there and in my feelings. I may say, so all of them take me for idiot. Because I've been sitting here the whole day and they have wasted my time. I am leaving. I have legs. I am of sound mind. I have taxi fare. I am going home. So had different campuses. You had the main campus, you had C campus, and you had the A campus. There was a mythical B campus. They were trying to make that a thing, but I don't think anybody recognized any area of the school as B campus. I'm going to say that the area where the guidance department was, and across from that too, where the math department was and where the arts department was, all of that was A campus. And that would be the first campus that you touch when you come through the main school gate, right? My friend, I want to say it was my friend Serena. If it wasn't Serena, it was my friend Nicole. One of them had my school bag and they were over by the math classes. I think they were having a math class. And I told Miss Harris that, listen, lady, appreciate it, not waiting. Cool, I'm leaving. And I just left the main campus and I walked over to the A campus. I found the class where my girlfriend was. I believe I should have been in that class. I'm not sure. To be honest, I don't remember. I don't remember these specifics. I do recall busting open the door to the class and just saying something along the lines of, Cece, can I get my bag, please? Or Nicole, can I get my bag, please? I don't remember who had my bag. I did not acknowledge the teacher. I was extremely disrespectful. I was loud. I wasn't deliberately trying to make a statement. I was just over it and I just wanted to leave. And I didn't give a fuck about anything anymore. I recall getting my bag and one of the students, calling me out and saying, hey, you can't just come in here like that. And I don't give a fuck, girl. I was loud. I started to create a scene. Everybody was on alert from my response to that girl. Fast forward to me just going through the school gate. That's not a thing. If school not over, you can't just leave. But for me, I have legs, I have autonomy, I have agency, I have independence. Why I can't just go home? I was frustrated and I wanted to leave, and so I left. I remember the security guard just being shocked that I left, and I remember him saying, hey, like at this point I'm out the school gate now, and I hear the security guard yelling, hey, you can't leave like that, hello. And I am just like zoning him out because I am free. I am going the fuck home. Nobody else is gonna waste my time. Yada, yada, yada. Hello, please. Just before I intersect Maraska Road, call it a touch Maraska Road, I just feel somebody yanking me back, dragging me back to school, right? And I am pissed because this man is fucking with my autonomy, my agency, my independence, my ability to do the fuck what I want to do, right? As a kid, and I echo those things now as an adult. Those are things that are still values that mean a lot to me. I have to, if I feel restricted in any way, yeah, I cannot. Anyways, so the guy is dragging me back to school. Let me just say this. The security guard was doing his job. That's all he was doing. And he wasn't manhandling me or anything. He was trying to keep me safe for the most part, because when you send your kid to school, you send your kid to school for X amount of hours, and you should be kept safe during that period of time that you're at the school. So he was literally just doing his job. The man drags me back into the school, yeah? By that time, I'm livid. Must say I give the man some blood cleat lick. Like, I'm in a beast mode at this point. Like, my fight. And to his credit, he was not fighting me back. He literally was just doing his job. He was trying to restrain me. He was trying to get me off him. He was not like throwing punches. And I was uncontrollable. There's nothing that anybody could do at the time to stop me from being so angry and being so violent and being so aggressive in the moment. I'm going to say, I just a fling kick. Me I beat up the man, you know. I remember at one point he pushed me off him, like in a final act to restrain me. He pushed me away. In that moment, I recall going to the guidance department. Again, we were in the A campus area, and the guidance department is there. And in the yard of the guidance department, there was a pile of leaves that the groundsman had, grouped together, I guess, to throw in a garbage bag at the end of the day. And in that pile of leaves, there was a mop stick or a broomstick. And when I tell you, I take the stick and I beat the man with the stick. I beat out a blood clot with the stick. And I'm not saying this because I am proud of my behavior. I was extremely aggressive. I want to tell you, I probably broke the stick on the man. Our interaction created such a commotion that the students were pouring out of the guidance department, and they were pouring out of the math department and the arts department. I had an audience and I was losing my shit in front of all these students, right? Listen to how serious this thing was. They had called King Alarm and I was being guarded by armed guards. Nobody was touching me. I was seated at the school gate, but I had two guards on either side of me with massive guns. And at this time, you have to understand too that school was about to be over. I had become such a security risk that they closed the main gate and they were rerouting parents to pick up their kids through the back gate. So nobody could go through the main gate. And oh my gosh, I don't remember in sequential order how everything else happened. I remember the security guard being taken to the hospital. I've never been able, I don't know the man's name. I can't tell you what he looked like. That man did not deserve that. That man was just a casualty in my madness that day. I recall him not coming back to school. I think he came back for a brief period and the students teased him. Overall, I don't think he came back to school for very long. I think his employment ended. I swear to God, I don't know how the school handled that portion of it. And I don't know how my parents and my sister handled that portion of it. In my teen brain, I was angry and I reacted out of anger. And the story was in a vacuum for me. It was just about my experience. And I didn't think about anybody else but me. I was in my teens. I didn't think about the consequences of my actions. I didn't know how to do those things at the time. All I know is at the time, I was angry. Fast forward to my parents, I grew up in Spanish Town. We didn't have a car, so my parents would have to take the bus into town. It would take some time for them to get to me. Anyway, my parents came for me after, and I took the bus home with my parents. There is a point in our community, like a central point, where you can take the taxi to that central point and you pay a minimal fee, and then you walk up to your house, or you pay the full fee and the taxi driver drops you at your house. I wanted to stop at that central point and I wanted to walk home the rest of the way because I wanted to clear my head. This is like in the night now that we get home, and my parents in the taxi were saying, no, like, no, you need to just go straight home. And I myself, may I say, but I've had a really long day. I just want to decompress and I want some time alone, and I would like to just walk, and I want to be by myself. And the people them tell me no. I want to say that by the time I got home, I became so enraged again because of the no. But I don't fully remember that part of the story. I believe that when I got home, I got very angry, and I think I smashed out the mirror of my dresser. Maybe. I know I did that one time. I was an angry kid. Anyway, I wasn't allowed to go back to school. I don't recall being officially suspended or being officially expelled. I recall a conditional re-entry to school. And the condition was I had to be evaluated by a psychiatrist. And my parents brought me to Spanish Town Hospital. I was admitted to the hospital for 3 days. And I wasn't on a psych ward or anything like that. I was admitted because I needed to be evaluated and no psychiatrist was available. So that's not true. I was admitted because I was showing signs of aggression when they were trying to admit me, right? I was losing my shit. I nearly bit the thumb off my dad's body. Like, I nearly separated him from his thumb when they told me that, listen, she has to stay to be seen. They restrained me. They tied me to the bed because I was so uncontrollably angry. And by the time I calmed down and, I was told that the psychiatrist wasn't there and I had to wait. I waited for 3 days until the psychiatrist came. Anyway, I was good in the hospital after that. And the nurses kept asking, why are you here? And why are you in a halter top and jeans? No doctor is going to see you unless you are properly attired. You need to go downstairs and buy some nighties. And I said to myself, girl, no, they might check my head. They might check my brain. What the fuck me need for being a 194? Those things are ugly. Me not wear that. I didn't. At that time, no matter what the consequences were, if I didn't want to do something, I just wouldn't do it. There was no way for you to get me to do what I didn't want to do. There was no way for you to get me to care about something I didn't care about. Eventually, I get seen by a psychiatrist and we do some evaluations, and I don't remember much of that. What I do remember, and I wonder if they told me the stuff or if they told my parents, because a lot of the medical stuff is just, I don't remember. I want to say like maybe 2 weeks after the incident happened, my friend Nicole called me one day. She calls me and she says, Tina, somebody came and spoke to our class today and they told us that you were diagnosed with this thing called bipolar disorder. The way that they explain bipolar disorder is like you're a ticking time bomb, and so they were training us as to how to deal with you when you come back to school. And she and I had a great laugh over that because of how she explained it and how she received it in her teen brain as well. And that is what I recall of my bipolar disorder diagnosis. When I was there at the hospital, I recall us discussing situational depression. I recall some of that being thrown around as well. I definitely was dealing with depression and still struggle with depression now. I recall a part of the condition for me to go back to school was I had to do some mandatory counseling sessions. And I wasn't fully engaged in the sessions. Again, anything that was medical, anything that was really useful at the time. My 17, 16-year-old brain was thinking, I don't go here, I don't care, it's not that deep, you guys are making this a big deal. I was angry for one day. One thing I will say is during the periods where we had to do the counseling sessions, again, I was disengaged for the most part, but there's one takeaway that I've kept with me. She taught me, or she reminded me that, we're always going to go through obstacles. The key thing to remember is not what you're going through, but it's how you're able to manage it. I went back to school a couple weeks later. I think I was out for like 3 weeks. Everybody that I encountered thought that I was batshit crazy. The kids would run from me. And the story took on wings, and I became notorious in school. I was always well known, but not popular, if that makes sense. In my late 20s, 30s, where I meet people who went to school in the same years that I went to school, most people, if you went to a school in Kingston, would have known about the girl who fought a security guard. It sort of became my legacy, which is terrible. In hindsight, I was going through a lot as a teen. People perceived me as this really bright kid who had money and who had it made, right? I don't think a lot of my peers knew at the time that I was on welfare in high school. Throughout my years, I got financial assistance from the guidance department. I had a sponsor. Things in my home life were not good. We suffered a lot of financial difficulty when I was a child growing into my teens. I always felt like a misfit, and I always felt like maybe people would find out and people would shame me for what my personal life was. I remember going through a period in high school where my house didn't have electricity for about 6 months. We went through a really, really dark time where we just didn't have electricity. My parents could not afford to. We didn't have electricity. But to give context, we are in a housing scheme with middle-class families, and our house is a standout house. We didn't have electricity for months at a time. And I remember going to school with my uniform crushed many, many days. And the students saying to me, oh, she just can't bother, she just this, she just that, she just want like she can't bother, because that is the persona that I built for myself as a shield. But the reality is that I didn't have the means to iron my uniform. And so I just made it look like, oh, I just didn't want to. And nobody can tell me what to do, and nobody can make me do what I don't want to do. I want to say that I think some of those challenges that I had, they really, really, really affected how I saw myself and how I felt about myself. And I absolutely developed some internal conflicts from that. There was a lot of dysfunction in my household, and I think that started to affect me, and it manifested in these behavioral problems. I am not somebody who knows enough about mental health disorders to explain the characteristics of any diagnosis. What I can tell you is that no diagnosis defines you. And I know that I am much older and much more mature, much more level-headed, much more reasonable, and I do not deal with situations like that. Don't get me wrong. I still have anger. I still have aggression. All emotions are useful within the right context. Plus, we are not perfect human beings, so we're not always going to do the right thing all the time. Although I have echoed that, I 100%, I value having agency, and I value autonomy, and I value being able to just get up and do what I want to do. I'm older now, so I understand that there are rules, and there are just some things that we can't do based on rules. And not me stopping there to think about that. Yeah. The one thing I'll add, if anybody watches this video and is thinking about or is struggling with mental health disorders, or thinks that they may have a mental health disorder, there is no shame in getting help. There's no shame in doing counseling. There's no shame in taking medication. I have never taken medication for any kind of mental health disorder per se. I've taken anxiety medication, Xanax, and I don't like it. And the reason I don't like Xanax is because it makes me feel high. It makes me feel out of control. And I've grown The adult that I am now, I am a control freak. So I cannot feel out of control. That is just not a thing for me. And it makes me feel like I'm not productive. And I am obsessed with productivity, and I'm always scheming at my computer. So that stuff doesn't define me, and it's not something I lead with. I was gonna say that it's not something I lead with. Not me making my first YouTube video about that. Well, when you think about algorithms and what is going to be of interest to people, it's people in your demographic as well. People might want to know.